Welcome back to the channel Valuable Coins HD. Today, we have a fascinating coin to discuss, the United States of America Roosevelt Dime from 1991. It's a coin that may seem simple at first glance, but there's more to this piece of history than meets the eye. If you're a collector or just curious about what makes certain coins valuable, this video is for you. By the end of it, you'll have a new appreciation for the Roosevelt Dime, and you might just be surprised by its worth. Stick around, because you won't believe what we're about to reveal about this 1991 dime. The Roosevelt Dime is an iconic coin in the world of American currency. First minted in 1946, this dime replaced the Mercury dime and has featured Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 32nd President of the United States, ever since. Roosevelt's image is prominently displayed on the obverse of the coin, while the reverse features an olive branch and a torch, symbolizing peace and unity. This coin is part of American everyday currency, but like all coins, some years are more valuable than others. The 1991 Roosevelt dime might not seem like a big deal at first, but believe me when I tell you that this particular year has something very special hidden inside its small, silver frame. Before we dive into the details of what makes the 1991 Roosevelt dime valuable, let's talk about the history behind the coin. Franklin D. Roosevelt was a beloved president, remembered for his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II. He passed away in 1945, and in 1946, the U.S. Mint introduced the Roosevelt dime as a tribute to him. Over the years, the design of the coin has remained consistent, but there have been variations in the minting process that have impacted its rarity and value. The 1991 Roosevelt dime is one of those coins where specific factors can make it worth much more than its face value. The first thing to consider when evaluating the worth of a 1991 Roosevelt dime is the condition of the coin. Like all coins, the value of a dime depends heavily on its state of preservation. Coins that have been heavily circulated, scratched, or tarnished will have a much lower value compared to those that have been carefully kept in mint condition. For a coin like the 1991 Roosevelt dime, which is over 30 years old, it's rare to find one in perfect, uncirculated condition. So, if you happen to stumble upon a 1991 dime that's in pristine condition, you could be holding a valuable piece of currency. Now, let's talk about the mint mark. Mint marks are small letters on coins that indicate where the coin was minted. For the 1991 Roosevelt dime, you'll find the mint mark either as a D for the Denver Mint, an S for the San Francisco Mint, or no mint mark at all, which would indicate that the coin was minted in Philadelphia. Mint marks are important because they can affect the rarity and value of a coin. Coins minted in San Francisco or Denver, for example, are often worth more than those minted in Philadelphia, simply due to the different production numbers at each facility. But the 1991 Roosevelt dime doesn't just rely on its condition and mint mark to determine its value. Over the years, certain rare features have been found in specific 1991 dimes, making them even more valuable. If you're familiar with the world of coin collecting, you know that mint errors can cause a coin to become incredibly rare. Some of the 1991 Roosevelt dimes contain minting errors such as double strikes, misaligned dies, or off-center strikes. These errors happen during the minting process, and while they may seem like mistakes, they actually increase the rarity and value of the coin. Coins with minting errors are highly sought after by collectors, and if you find one, you could be holding something much more valuable than a regular dime. So, what makes the 1991 Roosevelt dime truly stand out in the world of coin collecting? The key lies in its rarity and condition. While millions of these dimes were minted in 1991, only a small fraction of them were preserved in exceptional condition or contain minting errors. As a result, the value of this particular coin can be much higher than you might think. A well-preserved 1991 Roosevelt dime could be worth several $100s, especially if it has a rare mint mark or minting error. But here's the kicker: if you happen to find a 1991 Roosevelt dime in pristine, uncirculated condition, say, one that has been kept in a collector's vault or inherited from a family member, you could be looking at a coin worth a significant amount of money. Depending on its condition, rarity, and any potential minting errors, a single 1991 Roosevelt dime could be valued at as much as $55,000. Yes, you heard that right, $55,000. That's right, a coin worth just 10 cents could fetch a staggering sum if it's in the right condition and has the right characteristics. Imagine the surprise of finding such a rare coin in your collection, or even your pocket change. Coin collecting is full of unexpected treasures, and the 1991 Roosevelt Dime is one of those hidden gems that could make you a fortune. So, what should you do if you come across a 1991 Roosevelt Dime? First, take a close look at the condition of the coin. Is it in mint condition? Does it have any scratches, discoloration, or signs of wear? If it looks particularly well preserved, it's worth getting it professionally graded by a reputable numismatic service. They'll be able to evaluate its condition and assign it a grade, which will help you understand its true market value. If you believe your coin may have a minting error, it's even more important to have it graded, as these errors can significantly increase the coin's value. Remember, the value of a coin is determined by several factors: its rarity, condition, mint mark, and any special features like minting errors. The 1991 Roosevelt Dime is a prime example of how a simple coin can hold tremendous value when all the right elements come together. So, if you're a coin collector or just someone who likes to dig through your spare change, keep an eye out for that 1991 dime. It could turn out to be worth a lot more than you ever imagined. Today, we're diving into a coin that might seem simple at first, but trust me, there's more than meets the eye with this one. We're talking about the United States Roosevelt Dime from 1985. Now, the Roosevelt Dime might not be the first coin that comes to mind when you think of rare and valuable coins, but you might be surprised to learn just how much these small dimes are worth, especially when they have certain characteristics. Stick around because by the end of this video, you'll understand why this coin could be worth a staggering amount. The Roosevelt Dime was first minted in 1946, just after the passing of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had led the United States through some of its most challenging times during the Great Depression and World War II. The design was intended to honor his legacy, and it has remained largely unchanged ever since. The obverse of the coin features a portrait of Roosevelt, and on the reverse, you'll find a torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch, symbolizing peace, unity, and strength. However, just because this dime has been in circulation for decades doesn't mean that every one of them is worth just 10 cents. Far from it. Like many coins, certain years or editions of the Roosevelt Dime are worth far more than their face value, and the 1985 Roosevelt Dime is no exception. But what makes the 1985 version so special? Let's explore. To begin, it's important to understand that the value of any coin depends heavily on its condition. The 1985 Roosevelt Dime, like all coins, comes in a range of conditions, from those that have been heavily circulated and show wear and tear to those that are in near perfect, uncirculated condition. If you find a 1985 dime that looks almost brand new, you've stumbled upon something truly special. Coins that are well preserved often carry a higher value because they are rare. After all, many coins get damaged through use, so those that survive in pristine condition are worth much more to collectors. Another factor that determines the value of a coin like the 1985 Roosevelt Dime is the mint mark. If you're unfamiliar with mint marks, let me explain. Mint marks are small letters found on coins that indicate where the coin was produced. For the 1985 Roosevelt Dime, you'll see either a D for the Denver Mint, an S for the San Francisco Mint, or no mint mark at all, indicating that it was minted in Philadelphia. The mint mark can play a big role in determining the rarity and value of a coin. In general, coins from certain mints, like the San Francisco Mint, can be rarer and therefore more valuable than coins from other locations. So, if you come across a 1985 Roosevelt Dime with a particular mint mark, it could influence its market price. While most of the 1985 Roosevelt Dimes are relatively common, there are certain ones that stand out because of unique characteristics. Like all coins, the 1985 Roosevelt Dime is subject to errors during the minting process, and some of these errors can increase its value dramatically. Minting errors are exactly what they sound like: mistakes that happen while the coin is being produced. These mistakes might include things like double strikes, misaligned dies, or even off-center strikes. While these errors are rare, when they do occur, they can make the coin incredibly valuable. For example, let's say you find a 1985 Roosevelt dime that has an off-center strike. This means that during the minting process, the coin wasn't perfectly aligned with the die, causing part of the design to be cut off or misplaced. These types of errors are rare, and collectors love them because they're one-of-a-kind pieces. If you were to find one of these error coins, you could be looking at a significant increase in value. Another reason the 1985 Roosevelt dime is particularly interesting to collectors is the overall rarity of coins from that year. The U.S. Mint produced a large number of dimes in 1985, but not all of them were saved in perfect condition or kept for future generations. As time passes, coins that were once common become harder to find, and that scarcity adds to their value. So, the 1985 Roosevelt dime is one of those coins that may not be particularly rare when it was first minted, but as more and more time goes by, those that have survived in great condition are becoming increasingly valuable. Now, here's where things get really exciting. You might be thinking, okay, I get that the condition and mint mark matter, but how much could a 1985 Roosevelt dime actually be worth? Well, if you're lucky enough to find a 1985 Roosevelt dime that's in pristine condition and has the right mint mark or perhaps a minting error, you could be holding a coin worth far more than just 10 cents, while most 1985 dimes are worth only their face value. A well-preserved example can fetch a price of several $100s, especially if it has a minting error or is part of a rare run of coins. However, in rare cases, the value of these coins can soar even higher. If you happen to come across one of these dimes, particularly a version with a significant mint error or an unusual strike, you could be looking at a coin worth as much as $50,000. Yes, you heard that correctly, $50,000. That's right, a coin that started out as a simple 10-cent piece could be worth a fortune, depending on its rarity and condition. So, the next time you're going through your spare change or searching through your collection, make sure to take a closer look at any 1985 Roosevelt dimes you come across. With the right characteristics, you could have a coin that's worth a lot more than you expected. In conclusion, the 1985 Roosevelt dime might seem like a small, unassuming coin, but with the right conditions, mint mark, and perhaps a minting error, it can turn into a valuable treasure. So, the next time you spot a 1985 dime, remember to take a moment to inspect it closely. You never know, you might just have a coin worth $50,000 in your hands. Today, we're going to explore a coin that many of you might have tucked away in your collection or maybe even sitting in your pocket right now. We're talking about the 1967 Roosevelt dime, a coin that might seem like a small, everyday item, but in the world of numismatics, it has the potential to be worth a lot more than just 10 cents. If you've ever wondered how a simple dime could become a high-value collector's item, stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll be looking at your 1967 Roosevelt dimes a whole lot differently. First, let's talk a little about the history behind the Roosevelt dime. The Roosevelt dime was first issued by the U.S. Mint in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had passed away earlier that year. He had played a pivotal role in leading the country through the Great Depression and World War II, and the Roosevelt dime was created as a tribute to his legacy. The design features a portrait of President Roosevelt on the obverse, while the reverse showcases a torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. It's a timeless design that has remained largely unchanged since its introduction. Now, the 1967 Roosevelt dime is part of this long-running series, but as with most coins, its value depends on several key factors: condition, rarity, and any possible minting errors. You see, while most of the 1967 dimes are relatively common and circulate at face value, there are certain coins that stand out among the crowd. These are the ones that collectors are after, and they can be worth far more than just 10 cents. One of the most important aspects to consider when determining the value of a coin like the 1967 Roosevelt dime is its condition. Coins that are well preserved and show little to no wear are always more valuable. This is because, over time, coins that are used in circulation tend to get damaged, worn down, or scratched. However, if you can find a 1967 Roosevelt dime that's in almost perfect condition, one that still retains its original shine and detail, you may be looking at a coin that's worth significantly more than its face value. Collectors often seek out coins in the best condition possible, and a high-quality example of the 1967 Roosevelt dime could fetch a premium price. Coins that are graded in high-quality conditions, such as MS-65 or higher, are in high demand, and you'll see them priced well above their typical value. So, if you have a well-preserved 1967 Roosevelt dime, you might be in for a surprise. The next factor to consider is the mint mark. You may have noticed that coins often feature a small letter, such as a D, S, or no letter at all. This mint mark tells you where the coin was produced. The 1967 Roosevelt dime could have been minted in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint doesn't use a mint mark, so a 1967 dime with no mint mark was produced there. The D mint mark indicates the Denver Mint, while the S mint mark signifies the San Francisco Mint. While the mint mark itself may not drastically change the value of the coin in every case, it can be a determining factor in some circumstances. For example, certain mint marks are rarer than others. If your 1967 Roosevelt dime was minted in San Francisco, for instance, there's a chance it could be a little more valuable due to the lower production numbers. However, in general, for the 1967 Roosevelt dime, the differences in mint marks won't cause a huge shift in value. What really matters is the condition of the coin. What truly sets some 1967 Roosevelt dimes apart from others, however, are minting errors. Mistakes can happen during the production process, and when they do, they can turn an ordinary coin into a rare treasure. Mint errors can include things like double strikes, off-center strikes, or die cracks. These errors are relatively rare, and when they happen, they can significantly increase the value of the coin. For instance, if your 1967 Roosevelt dime has an off-center strike, where the design was printed slightly askew, or perhaps it has a double die error, where the design appears twice, it could be worth far more than you'd expect. Collectors love coins with minting errors because they're unique and hard to find. If you happen to come across a 1967 Roosevelt dime with a noticeable mint error, you may have just stumbled upon a valuable collectible. In fact, some error coins can be worth thousands of dollars, depending on how rare the error is and how well preserved the coin is. So, you may be wondering, just how much could your 1967 Roosevelt dime be worth? While most 1967 dimes are still only worth their face value of 10 cents, a high-quality example could fetch a price of a few $100s. But if you're lucky enough to have a coin with a minting error or one in nearly perfect condition, the value could soar even higher. Some 1967 dimes have been known to sell for several $1,000s at auction, particularly those that feature rare errors. And here's the exciting part: while the vast majority of 1967 Roosevelt dimes may not be worth much more than face value, there are always exceptions. If you find one that is in absolutely perfect condition or has a rare minting error, it could be worth a shocking amount. A coin in excellent condition, with a rare error or a highly sought-after mint mark, could be worth $64,000. That's right, a single Roosevelt dime from 1967 could be worth $64,000 if it's the right one with the right characteristics. So, before you pass off any old 1967 dimes you come across, make sure to take a good look at them. Inspect the condition carefully, check for any minting errors, and keep an eye on the mint mark. You just might have a valuable coin hiding in plain sight. Thank you for joining me today as we explored the value of the 1967 Roosevelt dime. If you're into coin collecting or just love learning about rare and valuable coins, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below if you've ever found a coin worth more than you expected. Happy hunting, and good luck with your coin collecting.